So, popular fiction. We just discussed what popular means, but what does fiction mean? What is it, and where did it come from? And this is one of those wild digressions, but stick with it because all will be revealed in the end. And we got to start on this question 7 million years ago, which is when human beings started evolving on their own. It's 7 million years since we last had a common ancestor with any other species. For those 7 million years, we started out as a small mammal about the size and shape of a dog. And over those 7 million years, we've ended up like this, like me, like you. And along the way, it was slow, it was dangerous, and for most of it, we were actually pretty lousy as animals. We were weak, we were slow, we were slender, we were often sick, often injured. We were much more likely to be prey than a predator. We were really not very successful as animals until about 6.5 million years into that process. Something truly extraordinary happened. A completely random mutation in our line produced a huge brain relative to what we'd had before. And that huge brain was instantly colonized by sophisticated language. This happened about 500,000 years ago. You can see it in the archaeological evidence. All of a sudden, we had a big brain pan, and we needed a big brain pan for sophisticated language. Now, lots of animals actually have a language. Prairie dogs are my favorite. They're little tiny mammals that live underground in what they call prairie dog towns, and they stretch up on tiptoe and peer at the horizon, looking for danger. They actually set sentries out, and they have 2 words for a predator approaching. The first word means an airborne predator. The second word means a ground-based predator. So language exists all over the place, but what we suddenly got was sophisticated syntactical language where we could speculate, where we could make plans, where we could say, if this doesn't happen, we'll do that instead. And that was our salvation. These weak, slender, slow, rather pathetic animals suddenly were able to band together in big bands, maybe 20 of them, maybe 50, maybe 100. And 100 humans coordinated with a plan were suddenly the most powerful animal on Earth, all depending on language, all depending on being able to say, if this happens, we'll do that. But if this other thing happens, we'll do something different. They had a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, if necessary. All of a sudden, in our development, hunting was much easier, living was much easier. We owe our success and survival as a species to sophisticated syntactical language. It made an absolutely vital difference. And I think it's fair to speculate that in order to produce an evolutionary positive result, we talked the truth. We told each other the truth. We were rooted exclusively in a non-fiction world. But then an extraordinary thing happened. All of a sudden, as well as non-fiction, as well as talking about reality and describing truth, for some reason, we made a mental jump to talking about things that actually had not happened to people that actually did not exist. In other words, we turned nonfiction into fiction. We started making up stories. And a really burning question is why? Why did we do that? It was still deep in our prehistory. There was no concept of leisure time. It wasn't that, we got all these hours to spare and we may as well fill them up somehow. It was not about that at all because we had no leisure time. Everything was a fairly desperate struggle for survival. Nothing developed unless it gave you a better chance of still being alive in the morning. That's what evolution is. It's about a mutation that brings an advantage. So what was the advantage in mutating from talking about nonfiction to suddenly making things up. Where is the evolutionary advantage in that? And I think we can probably speculate that it was about empowerment and encouragement and parable and teaching and education. Again, empowering, giving people strength, giving people courage, giving people the reassurance that, yeah, things can be okay. Because there had to be a purpose for fiction, and I think that is the purpose of fiction. It gives us a view of an alternate reality. We're not describing the actual reality, we're saying this is what might happen, this is what could happen, and it can be fun, it can be exciting, it doesn't have to be bad, it doesn't have to be dangerous. So in my opinion, that's where fiction came from. Those are the bones of fiction. And one of those things will be those fundamental purposes of story. And we still are affected by them today. Why do we read a made-up story? Why do we watch it on television? It is because in some way we are still getting the advantages, the evolutionary advantages that we used to get way back when we first started doing it. We get encouraged, we get empowered, we get consoled, particularly. Things that we haven't done in our own lives, that we've missed out on, you can experience in a book. Antidotes to things that we have suffered in our lives, we can get from a book. Real life tends to be very frustrating, especially in the crime fiction type of situation where you know how it is in reality. If your house gets burgled, they're never going to catch the guys. They're never going to get your stuff back. The police probably won't even come and investigate. But in a book, you bet they're going to find the guys who broke into your house. You bet you're going to get your stuff back. And with a bit of luck, the guys will be punished in some way that you find satisfying, and you will get closure and you will get happiness. So fiction is about giving people what they don't get in real life. Therefore, popular fiction means giving lots of people what they don't get in real life. And you can see the mechanisms for doing that. You have probably in your life been in danger or slight discomfort at some point, and you're glad to get out of it, and you're connecting there with a very, very ancient feeling. I learned it from my daughter when she was a baby. We used to play this game where she would have a bath, and then when it was time to get her out, she was all slick and soapy with the water, and I would pick her out of the bath and hold her up and pretend to drop her, and of course then catch her as she fell. And she would shriek with delight. There was something clearly very ancient and atavistic about that thing. To feel peril while you know it's going to be all right. It was absolutely stark and clear. You're afraid, but secretly you know it's going to be okay. And that's what you get from thriller fiction. A dire situation. Everything is really bad. Everything is deadly. The hero is about to be snuffed out completely, but he escapes. And you kind of know he's going to. That's the implicit bargain. That is what is so empowering about that kind of fiction. You know it's going to be all right, even though 99% of your thoughts in the moment are that it's awful. But you know it's going to turn out all right. And you're somehow immensely relieved and immensely delighted. Just like my daughter shrieking with laughter. You have an adult version of that. You're delighted. It was terrible, now it's good. Order has been restored. Safety has been reestablished.